I do. I have a lot that I want to talk about.
Okay, well, I'll let you go say whatever statements you want to. Make sure that you do plug that article though, because
Yeah.
we'll want to promote that too.
Well, one thing I want to do right off the bat is say how honored I am. This is the second major endeavor that I've been invited to participate with by Jewel. So thank you very much. Appreciate that. You're really hitting some important issues. And for example, I didn't know about this legislation, the Senate Bill 119, the Abby Honold Act. I hope I said the name correctly. Didn't know about it. You guys are the ones who tipped me off. And so what I did is I researched it. And I happen to already know quite a bit about the trauma-informed part of it. But I didn't know about the bill. So I read the bill, and I'm very concerned. And although I do have an important concern for men, the bigger concern is for the Constitution and for everybody. Women can also get screwed by this bill. So what is it? First, we need to know a little bit about trauma-informed, because this bill is imposing trauma-informed police work and trauma-informed prosecution. And as with VAWA, Violence Against Women's Act, which kind of seems very sexist. Shouldn't it be the Violence Against People Act? But, you know, VAWA for years, which has been the leader in getting rid of due process primarily for men and creating unfair legal advantage for primarily women. It's the same method again. It doesn't make sense to adopt what's being proposed by Congress. So what do? They sweeten the pot. Here's free money. You just have to do it our way. Well, I know when I was a police officer and I was paying, and also concurrently when I was working on my PhD in criminology, I paid attention to some of this stuff. In fact, I actually ended up writing about it in one of my books, Judicial War and Men. And what I found was chasing the statistic because it gets you the money. Give you an example. I'm not going to necessarily say this was a case of mine. Might have been someone else's case. But the case involved a man who was transgender, full-time dressing in female clothing and makeup and jewelry and so forth. And the next door neighbor used to spray the hose over the fence at this guy, used to say terrible things. And one time even pepper sprayed through the fence, pepper sprayed this individual. Okay, so is that a hate crime involving a transgender person? Yes, it is. But there was an incentive in that case for the department not to report it as a hate crime. And as a matter of fact, the police officer who wrote the report was told to take the hate crime section out. Why? Because it creates a bad statistic for the city. Okay, now let's look the other direction. What if you don't have enough statistics to show that this trauma-informed program that Congress is saying we want you to put in place, but and if you do, you're going to get money? Well, just the opposite can happen. You can have cases that are bad cases, but doggone it, we got to put it through. Doggone it, we got to prosecute it because we want that millions and millions of dollars of money. And don't for a second be so naive as to think that that doesn't go on in government agencies, whether it be police, whether it be prosecution. It does go on. That is the dirtiest, sneakiest way to force police and prosecutors to change their ways, is to tie money into a program, and in this case, a program that actually lowers due process. It's sneaky, it's dirty, but it's a done deal. It's the law. So the individual who provided VAWA for us, who now occupies the White House, just signed the bill to put Senate Bill 119, the Abby Honold Act, through. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what's trauma-informed. Well, there's really kind of 5 concepts. A couple of them are okay. Ensure emotional and physical safety of the accuser. Well, of course, anytime any police officer, and I used to be a police officer in a really violent city, one of the most violent cities in California, you always want to put the person who's making the accusations at ease so they'll be able to talk to you. Okay. So nothing wrong with ensuring the emotional and physical safety. Of course, take them out of the danger zone, put them in your patrol car where they're safe, or, take them down to the station. That's okay. Next one, work to make the accuser believe law enforcement is trustworthy. Also a worthwhile deal. We in law enforcement and criminology and the criminal justice world have sustained a really, really huge amount of harm from Black Lives Matter, who, by the way, don't care about Black lives, because Black lives have gotten worse, not better, since BLM has been taking millions of dollars from the left and going out and causing riots. People have died because of BLM. But anyways, it's really harmed law enforcement. So the second goal of Trauma Informed is to make the accuser believe law enforcement is trustworthy. I'll tell you an interesting story. When I was a police officer, there was three types of crimes that I just gravitated towards and specialized in. It was the investigation of domestic violence, sexual assault, and child abuse. And anybody I was working with, if they had one of those cases and the sergeant was okay with it, they transferred it to me. So it wasn't unusual for me to do one or two of those cases pretty much almost every shift. So I've had the experience of working with thousands of victims, some of whom were legitimate and some of whom were fake. But I can tell you, at first, you don't actually know who is who. So what you do is you make them feel like law enforcement is trustworthy. And I did that. I did that successfully. So that's a good goal. You want to do that. What about the third one? That the accuser has control during the interaction, either with the police or prosecution, big problem. The accuser's not a cop. The accuser's not an attorney. And that is absolutely a mistake to ensure that they have some control during the interaction. No, they should have no control, but you don't make them uncomfortable. But it is you, the police officer, who decides, for example, yes, you're going to talk to the witnesses, even if the accuser doesn't want you to. And yes, you're going to go ahead and take the accuser down to the hospital for an evidentiary exam and collect her clothing and get sample. Yes, you're going to do that, even though they didn't want to. And yes, as a matter of fact, even if the parents don't want you to talk to the child, if the school called and told you the kid has bruises on them, yes, you're going to talk to the kid. Okay, so there's just certain things you do. You have to be the big person in the room who takes charge and makes those decisions. Women can also get screwed by this bill.